As a YouTuber, this automation makes my life way easier. This is an n8n workflow that I built for myself to scrape and filter content from my favorite YouTube creators so that I have all the relevant data, see what these guys are working on, see what I can improve, and always stay learning and relevant in the AI automation space. This is a standalone workflow you can use to get all of the highest performing videos from any content creator you want. You simply enter in a YouTube handle and it'll bring you a list of the highest performing videos within a certain time period that you can set. And you can set it to run on a schedule every day, for example, so that your video list is always up to date from any content creators that you want to search for. Everything gets stored into an Airtable base where you will always have an up-to-date list of the highest performing videos, and that can be used as your watch list or to-do list, for example. Instead of trying to save videos in different browser favorites folders and all of that stuff, which is what I used to do, you'll have this nice watch list of all the videos from your favorite creators. This is obviously an excellent automation for YouTube content creators, but it's also a great way just to find the best videos of a particular niche. I'm going to walk you through step by step how to build this one from scratch, but I will be implementing this into my overall AI assistant named Isla as its own agent that can get these YouTube details for me on the go if I'm on my phone or need a quick update on video information in the AI automation space. As always, I'll have all of the n8n workflows available to download inside of my school community. Once you join my community, you'll have access to all of the n8n workflows and all the other cool resources I've got in there. You'll have access to the group, the community feeds, and of course, you'll have access to me. You can always book one-on-one calls with me and we can work on your automation builds together, troubleshoot any issues, or figure out new ideas and new workflows to implement for yourself and your business. But for now, let's jump into this build. All right, let's get straight into it. First thing we need to do is create a database of all the accounts we want to scrape from. So I'm in my Airtable account. This is my Airtable dashboard. I'll come up here to create new base. Click start from scratch. I'll close down all the stuff that pops up automatically, this getting started section, close out of that. I'll click on these three default fields, holding shift on the keyboard, right click on any of the fields, then say delete 3 fields. Right away, I'll come up to name this base YouTube VPH demo and change the color. Then I'll double click on the table name to rename the table. I'll call this table YouTube accounts, something like that, and click save. I'll double click on this primary field name to rename this field. Let's name it account name, and we can leave it as a single line text field. Click save. That's pretty much all we need to get started, but something else I like to do. First of all, I'm going to delete these 3 default blank records that pop up in here. So I'll click on the little check boxes right here, then I can right click on any of those records and say delete all selected accounts. So let's click the plus to create one more field here. This will be a URL, and this is where we can store the actual account links if we want a reference to those YouTube pages. So I'll just leave the field name empty. We'll get a default name of URL, and I'll click create field. There's that URL field. I'll expand out this field just a little bit and maybe expand out the account name just a little bit. Cool, so this pretty much now starts off a blank slate. Getting to this point will help you set everything else up just to see what's going on starting from scratch. We didn't technically need to delete those 3 records, but I just like to start completely from scratch if I need to wrap my mind around anything that I'm building. In this case, however, we didn't really need to, so I went ahead, clicked the little plus to create that first record back in there, and we can copy and paste a YouTube account into these 2 sections here. So I'm going to go over to YouTube, come to my channel. I'll copy and paste my username, jump back over to Airtable, paste my username right there, and back into YouTube. I'll grab my URL right here. Let's jump back into Airtable and I'll paste that URL just like that. This automation is going to need the username here, the handle for a YouTube account. This is just for your personal reference. If you want to jump over to that actual YouTube page, you could enter in this URL here. The other thing the automation needs to run is one more handy field here. So I'm going to click the plus to create a new field. Call this get videos. This will be a checkbox field. And for the style, I like to choose this little thumbs up. click create field. Now that just gives us a checkbox to say, yes, grab videos from this person, or no, don't grab videos from this person. Cool, so that is it. Now I'll just leave this one toggled on, yes, get videos from this person. That way when we trigger everything in n8n, we're already set up in Airtable. Great, so before we jump over to n8n, let's set up one more table here. Click the plus to create a new table, say start from scratch, and we'll call this table video list. This is where all of those videos coming in will get stored. Click save. Same thing here. I'll click on these 3 default fields that pop up, holding shift on the keyboard, right click on any of the fields and say delete 3 fields. Let's name this primary field the same thing as before. Double click on the primary field, then we can call it account name and leave it as a single line text. Same thing as before, I'll delete out these 3 default records just to clear everything up. Let's come over to name this grid view, double click on it to rename it, and let's name this new videos. Then click the plus to create a new field. Let's call this channel ID. And this will be a single line text. Choose that, click create field, click the plus to create a new field. This will be video ID. This will be a single line text, create the field, click the plus to create the next field. This will be video title, single line text, create the field. Next thing I like is the thumbnails. Create a new field called thumbnail. And this will be an attachment field. Create the field, click the plus to create a new field. This will be a URL field. Leave it empty and create the field. Click the plus to create a new field. Let's call this description. This will be a long text. Create the field. Click the plus to create a new field. Call this views. You can scroll down, find number field. For the formatting, choose the decimal places. We can set it to 0 decimal places. Create the field. Now we can just duplicate this field. Right click on it, click duplicate, and just rename this field VPH for views per hour. Click save. We can duplicate this field, right click on it, choose duplicate field, double click on this new field, call it likes. Click save, click the plus to create a new field, scroll down, find date, click this toggle to include time, and we'll name this field published time. Create the field, click the plus to create a new field, call this watched or viewed. This will be a personal log. It's a checkbox field. Again, I like to use this little thumbs up. Click create the field. Couple more fields, click the plus, scroll down, let's find the created time, choose that, leave it blank, and create the field. And finally, click the plus, name this record ID. This will be a formula field. Find formula. In this formula box that pops up here, type in REC. That'll give you this built-in function for record ID. Click on that, then finish off this function with the closing parenthesis. Type that in on the keyboard, then click create the field. Great, so this is gonna be all the data and all the information we're gonna gather from these videos, but we don't need to see all of this information in our new videos view over here. So let's go ahead and hide some of these views that we don't actually need to see, we don't need to work with. They just have to be in there for the automation and data gathering. Come up here to this button for hide fields. Click on that and you can just follow along with me and toggle off these fields that we don't need. First one is channel ID, video ID, and we don't need to see the record ID. You can drag around these fields and reorder them however you want. It's not going to mess anything up just by changing the order of these fields. So I'm going to have the account name, then the thumbnail, then the title. I can expand this one out a little bit just by dragging in between the field names. Then I'll have VPH right here, then the URL, and then I'll scroll down to find the watched field and bring that down just after the URL. Like I said, all of these fields you can rearrange to your preference. This is how I want to organize my database here. You can organize yours however you want. I might put views in front of the description, then have description, publish time, and created time. Actually, let's move publish time just there so we can double check. Great, so we're done in Airtable. Let's jump over to n8n. So here I am in my n8n dashboard. I'm in my saved digital automation diagram workflows. I'm going to come up to this corner and click create workflow. All right, so we're in a blank canvas space. First thing I'm going to do is come up to name this workflow YouTube VPH demo and save the workflow. Great, click the plus to create the first trigger First trigger is going to be on schedule. Click on that and we can set a schedule here. So basically this one's going to run at midnight. That's good enough for now. I'll click outside of the node. You can click anywhere outside of this node or click on back to canvas. We'll be able to trigger this schedule manually by clicking test workflow while building this one out. You can go back and set a schedule that works for you. What works for me is just having it run once a day. So that default schedule there is fine. Click the plus to create the next node. Now this is where it already starts to get a little bit tricky. We're going to use a code node. I tried to keep this one as no code as possible, but a little bit of code is going to be way faster and way easier. Sometimes I try out these code nodes, and if they don't work one time, I give up on it and I go find a no code solution that I can figure out. I'm just not a coder and doing this kind of coding stuff. Trust me, it's not for me as well. I wish it was, but it's not. This code we're going to add in here is actually very easy, and you won't have to know anything about it. You can copy and paste what I have. So I'm going to come in here and delete out this default code, and I'll paste in this code right here. Okay, now you can copy and paste this code. What this is going to do is set a time period to check videos. All you need to know are changing these two numbers right here. So basically these are the number of days from today that you want to search. So number of days from today, 7 days. So 7 days ago, all the way up to 83 days ago. So from a week ago to 83 days ago, this will run and check that window of time. What I want to do in this demo for this video is actually change this to 3 days. Let's just minimize that gap. So anything that was posted at least 3 days ago, and we'll shorten the time period to, let's say 1 month, 30 days ago. So these two numbers are going to change the window of time that you're searching. This is creating a variable saying 90 days ago, but we can basically set that to anything right here. And this is creating a variable saying 7 days ago, but we can set that to anything right here. Now, if we run this, if we test this step by itself, you can see what happens. It's going to output a published after this date and a published before this date. It's giving you those two schema from this code right here, published after and published before. So that is the window of time that we're going to be searching and plugging in these two schema here into the following nodes. Great. So I'm going to click outside of this node, click the plus to create the next node. This will be Airtable. You can type in the search bar here, find Airtable, and we're going to search records. Choose that. Now you're going to want to create your Airtable credential here. If you don't already have an Airtable credential, you'll need to set up a personal access token inside of Airtable. You can click into this dropdown, choose create new credential, and open the docs right here. Follow the docs to set up your personal access token right here. Not the OAuth 2, but this personal access token is how you get this one connected. I have the tutorial for setting up your personal access token in Airtable in the school community. If you want to jump over there, check out the link in the video description below. So I'm going to choose my Airtable access token right here. And what we want to do, leave these two options the same. Let's choose our base from the list, click into this dropdown. And if you set up your token correctly, you should see your Airtable base pop up in this list right here. Here's my YouTube VPH demo base. Now we can choose which table we want to operate inside of, drop this down, and we'll choose YouTube accounts. Now we'll add a filter here. This is an Airtable formula that we can use to filter out which records we're actually searching with this node. So we can follow this example formula right here. So what I'm going to do is type in curly braces, jump over to Airtable. I'll come back into my YouTube accounts table, and we want to filter by this checkbox right here. We only want to search for accounts that have this checkbox. Just to make it easier, I'll double click on the field name and copy this field name. This has to be spelled exactly the same way. Click cancel or save, come back into n8n and paste that field name right here. Get videos, followed by the next closed curly braces, equals on the keyboard, and in all capital letters, type true, and open and a close parenthesis. If that box is checked, the checkbox in Airtable, by the way, it's actually returning true true or false. If it's checked, it's true. If it's unchecked, it's false. So we're saying true, meaning that box is checked. Now I'm just going to keep this toggled on return all. We're going to return every single record in Airtable that has a checkbox. Okay, that should be fine like that. Click on test step and we'll get back that only record in Airtable. Cool. I'm going to click outside of this node, click the plus to create a new node. Now this is where this one gets even more tricky, is we need to make a call to an API called Rapid API. So to do that, we're going to need to add HTTP node. So type in HTTP, find the HTTP request node. Now, if you've never used the HTTP request node in any automation, basically what this is doing is sending a request to a services API, going over, knocking on the door and saying, hey, can I get some information? The API will hand out that information and the HTTP request node will take that information and bring it back to you, depending on how you set up these parameters. So what we need to do here is set up a couple of parameters to accomplish that. First thing we need to do, however, is jump over to Rapid API. Here I am in my Rapid API account. You can set up an account totally for free. All of these APIs I use for YouTube have a free plan. That's what we're going to be using today. You don't need to pay for Rapid API. And if you're using one of these APIs here, you can use the free plan. So let's jump into this one right here. To find this API, you can type it in the search bar up at the top here, YouTube Data API version 3. Now we're going to want this one right here, the Data API version 3. Most of these APIs do relatively the same thing. These are just creators making these APIs. If you sign up for their services, they get paid. So everyone is most likely doing something pretty similar. We're going to use this one right here by this user right here. Click on that. And it's going to bring you to this page here. Breaking this down real quick, this is your API key. You want to keep this safe. This is going to be how you access all of the APIs inside of Rapid API. Mine is blurred out. Then on this side, for this YouTube Data API version 3, we have the curl header required to make this request. Now to get this one actually working, if you don't use this YouTube API already, you'll have to come up here to subscribe to the API. There will be a button here that says subscribe to API or run API or test to use API or something like that. And once you click on that button, it'll give you the option to subscribe to this YouTube API. You can choose the free plan and we can continue on from there. Now, what's great about n8n is we can actually come up here and copy this curl, jump back into n8n and click this button right here to import curl. Paste that curl right there and click import. Now it filled out our node pretty well, but we have to make some changes here to get our search parameters working correctly. So first of all, in the URL section here, you can click into that, click on expression. That'll change this to an expression field. You're going to want to copy and paste what I have in here. So I'm going to click this little button to expand this expression field, delete this URL and paste in this URL right here. Okay, once you have this URL pasted in, right after the equal sign, we're going to link in the account name from Airtable. So come into your schema over here and drag in the account name just after that equal sign. If we read the result over here, you can see now this ID for handle equals Kirk Artman. It's going to grab those YouTube handles. Great. I'm going to click outside of this expression node. And now basically we've added in our own query parameters to the URL. So down under query parameters, we can toggle this off. We don't need to send any query parameters. We do need to leave the headers on. This is going to be how it calls to Rapid AI and gets the appropriate YouTube API, and then it'll authenticate it with your API key right here. I'll click outside of this node. All right, we can move on to the next node. To make this a little bit easier, let's just copy and paste this HTTP request. You can copy and paste it or right click on it, say duplicate. I'll drop that second HTTP request node right there and drag the toggle handle into the back of it to link it up just like that. Now, while we're here, let's go ahead and name these two nodes so we can keep them in order. This first node, right click on it, click rename, and I'll name this Get Accounts. Click rename. The second one, I'll right click on it, click rename. This will be Get Videos, click rename. Double click into this node so we can change around some of the parameters. So what we need to change is the URL. I'm going to expand out this URL expression field. Click the little expansion button right here and delete out this URL from the previous node, and you can go ahead and paste what I have here. Now we'll need to link in some information just like before. So in this first line, after the channel ID equals, right here, just after this equal sign, let's grab the channel ID from the previous node. So I'm going to click outside of the node, click on test step. This will run your previous nodes and get that data coming through into this HTTP node. Now this one is going to fail, or it'll run and not give you any data. Mine is failing with this error right here because I deleted out my API key just so I can keep it hidden for this video. So now that we have data coming through, we could enter it into these sections here in the URL. So I'm going to expand out this URL field again, click the little button, and after the channel ID equals, we now have a channel ID coming from the previous HTTP request node right here. I'm going to click and drag this channel ID just after the equal sign. Now there's a line right here that we can tweak if you want to change the number of max results you get from any given channel. So you can toggle this number right here for the maximum number of YouTube videos you want to search for from one particular channel. Now this API has a limited number of requests you can make on the free plan. So if you're making tons of requests, getting tons of videos from tons of channels, you're going to start to hit your rate limits with the free plan on this YouTube API. So I'm actually even going to lower this number from my previous testing to 5 results. And again, this will be max 5 results from any one particular YouTube channel. Now we have some other query information in here, but after this published after line, published after equals, we could add in those dates from our code nodes. I'm going to scroll down in the input over here and find the published after time, drag that and drop it down just after the equal sign. Same thing for this published before line right here. After the equal sign, I'm going to click and drag in this published before schema just like that. Great. Now to make sure this URL works properly, we have to get rid of the white space in between. So what I'm going to do is just before this line here, I'll click into that text and hit backspace until there is no white space in between these lines. Same thing right before this ampersand, hit backspace on the keyboard until there's no white space between these lines. I separated it out like that for you to copy and paste just to make it easier to see where exactly we needed to add in these links to these schema, right? So now that this is all one cohesive URL, we can click outside of the node and come up to test step. Now this will run through and get up to a maximum of 5 videos from each of the YouTube channels you entered into Airtable. Great, so that node is finished. I'm gonna click outside of the node. Let's click the plus to create the next node. This will be the split out node. Click on that. Now we're gonna take all of the information about all of the videos gathered and split out the details to go down different routes of this automation. So in the input over here, find the items array. This is going to contain all of the items, and each of these items is essentially all the details about one of your videos gathered, right? So we have 5 items, item 0 through item number 4, 5 items gathered, and inside of each item object is all of the details, the video ID, we've got the channel ID, title, description, things like that. So I'm going to grab all of these items and drag them to this fields to split out. We'll be able to split out each of these videos and get all of their details separately. Go ahead, click test step. That'll run this node and split everything out. Let's click outside of this node and we can see we now have 5 items coming from the split out node. All right, now that we got this information splitting out, we can separate it into 2 different chains here. So let's click the plus to create a new node. In the search bar, you can type in set. We want the edit fields node. Click on that. We're just going to pull across the video ID from the split out node. So grab this video ID, drop it in there, and then we can name it simply video ID. Click test step. Now we can see in the table view, we have our 5 video IDs coming through. I'm gonna click outside of the node. All right, so the next node is going to be the HTTP request node. Again, we can duplicate this one. For this YouTube API that we're using through Rapid, we have to make 3 separate requests to get all of the information that we need. There are other YouTube APIs. If you're browsing around Rapid API, you can probably find some other YouTube tools in there that will get all of this information in one request. But with this one that we're using, we have to make 3 different requests. So we're gonna make another request. I'll right click on this HTTP node, duplicate it, and drop it down right there. Double click into it. That'll give us all the same header information from the previous HTTP nodes, but we're gonna change up the URL field again right here. Going to expand this URL field, delete everything in here, and you can copy and paste what I have here. Now, if this link is broken for you, if it's red, you can delete it out. And after the equal sign, we're gonna grab the video ID from the edit fields node, the previous node. Drop it down right after the equal sign, just like that. I'm gonna click outside of the expression field, come up to rename this node, get video views, rename it, and test the step. Now for each of our 5 videos, we're getting the views, likes, favorites, and number of comments. I'll click outside the node, click the plus to create the next node. You can type in set in the search bar again. We're gonna get the edit fields node one more time. Now coming from the HTTP request node, we've got our new statistics: view count, like count, favorite count, and comment count. What we're gonna pull across is the video ID. Now I'm gonna get the video ID from the previous edit fields node just to keep things nice and tidy with the same name right there. Next thing we need is the view count. Drag that into the next box. We'll call this views. We'll get the like count if you want to store that information as well. Drag that into the next box and we'll name this one likes. Now that's all I need from the statistics. I don't need favorites or comment count. You can grab these 2 if you want, pass those through. What we do need for the next step is scroll down back to the split out node. We could technically run this one through the edit fields node and get that one nice and tidy in here as well. I'll just go ahead and do that right now and rerun this one through. So I'm gonna click outside of this field, come back into this edit fields node, and let's pass in the published at time from the split out node, drag it into that box, and we can call it published at. Test the step. Now we have the video ID and the published at times coming across. Click outside the node. We can test this HTTP request one more time to rerun that. I'll click the little play button right here to rerun that. Now double click back into this edit fields node, scroll down a little bit, and we've got that published at time coming through from this node here, just keeping things organized. Technically, this edit fields node is an extra step, but we're just keeping data tidy as we pass it down the chains. Great, so everything is in here. These input fields need to be named exactly like this, because in the next step, we're gonna run another code node. So I'm gonna come up here, rename this node, set variables, rename it, and test the step. Now we've got these items coming through like that. We'll click outside the node. Before we actually add the code node, we're gonna click the plus in aggregator, find the aggregate node. Now this one, we're gonna pull in all the data from the set variables node. So we can click into this drop down, say all item data, include all fields. And on this field right here, we're gonna change this data. This needs to be named videos, just like that. Go ahead, test the step. And now we've got all of those 5 items, those 5 videos aggregated into one item we can send on to the code node to process. I'm gonna click outside of this node, click the plus to create the next node, find the code node, delete out the default code, and you can copy and paste what I have right here. I'm going to expand this out so you can see it. So this code is going to take all of the videos. It's going to calculate based on the published time, the views per hour since published. So it's going to take the published date and the number of views and just do some math to calculate the average views per hour since published, right? Not the YouTube current views per hour. This is the average views per hour since published. Great. I'm going to click outside of this field and test the step. Now we have all of our videos with this added statistic right here for views per hour. And my latest video doing pretty good. That's great. Makes me happy to see that. So let's click outside of this node. We can call this code node rename it, calculate VPH, and click rename. By the way, just jumping back into this code node, all of these scripts that I came up with here, I just asked ChatGPT to write them for me. Basically said, here's my information. What do I need to do to calculate this in a code node in n8n? So that's how I'm getting these actual scripts, just asking ChatGPT to write them for me. Pretty simple method on doing that. So I'm just going to save my workflow just in case, and we can move on to the next node. Click the plus to create the next node. This will be the split out node again. Click on that, and we're going to split out our videos from the code node. Test the step, and now we have everything split back out with this new field in here like that. I'll click outside the node. So we had to aggregate all of the data to bring it into the code node for processing. I'm sure there's a better way to do this step right here. I just don't have the coding skills to get that to come through the way that I think it should. So I had everything come together, aggregate it, run the code on a single item, then split it back out into 5 items again. That's just because I'm not a coder, and this way works just fine using these nodes. All right, so the next node, this is going to be an important setting you can define here. This is the filter node. Click on that. Now we're going to filter views per hour. So we're going to grab the views per hour. For this operator here, we'll change this to a number, and we'll say greater than, views per hour greater than. And now this is a number you can set right here to determine what videos you're actually going to be seeing. So a good number to look for in general, I think, is probably over 50 views per hour since publishing. Most of my videos absolutely do not have that, so I wouldn't be seeing any of my videos except for this latest one. That's probably a good metric to go by, but we can tailor this number to anything you want. So I'm just going to say 30 views per hour since publishing within that time window we set at the beginning of this automation. Test the step, and we should only get one video coming through. This is my latest video, doing pretty good. Now we can see we've got 1 kept item and 4 discarded items right here in the table view. These are the numbers for my other previous 4 videos. Not doing as good as of today. I'll click outside of this node, and that ends it for this first chain. We needed to run this chain to get the views and calculate views per hour, and then filter the videos based on that statistic. So I'm gonna come all the way back to this first split out node, and we're gonna run another route down here. Drag that toggle handle out. We'll find the set node again, and we'll map in all of the data coming from the split out nodes. Now, something to keep in mind here is that I manually map my fields in Airtable. So to make your workflow a little bit easier, something you can do here is name these fields the same names as your field names in Airtable. For example, I'll just grab and drag over the channel ID. This will be the first one, and we can name this field name the same as what we have in Airtable. Exactly that field name like that. If that doesn't make sense to you, that's all right. I'll explain it a little bit more as we get into the Airtable node and start linking stuff up into Airtable. But basically, you can automatically link all of your fields up in Airtable if they're named the same thing. I don't automatically link my fields. I manually link my fields, so I don't worry about naming my fields the same thing until we get to Airtable. So like I said, if that doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. Keep following along. You can follow along exactly with what I have here, and it's going to work fine. Just something to keep in mind in the future if you want to make your workflow a little bit quicker, a little bit faster using the automatic mapping. So let's grab the channel ID, bring that in here. We'll rename it simply channel ID. Let's find the channel name. We'll scroll down, get the channel title here, name it channel title, scroll back up to find the video ID, drag that into the next box. We can name it video ID. Let's find the video title, this title right here, drop that down there. Name it title. Let's grab the description, drop that one down next, name it description. Let's find the published at, we'll bring that over again, name it published at. Let's see what else we need. We need the thumbnail. I like bringing the thumbnail over just because I'm a visual person and I can associate which video I'm looking at in Airtable. So that's what we're doing here, setting up all of these fields to be dropped into Airtable. So I'm gonna find the thumbnails and find the largest thumbnail right right here, width and height with the biggest numbers, and we need to drop in this URL. However, Airtable does not accept the URL by itself. The attachment field in Airtable actually requires an array for you to drop in any files. So we're going to process that a little bit differently, but let's go ahead and drag this URL, drop it down right there, and just name it thumbnail. Okay, let's test the steps, see if we got everything we need coming through. I'm going to switch to the schema view. Now we can see channel ID, channel title, video ID, video title, description, published time, and the thumbnail. Awesome. So I'm going to rename this node to set relevant fields, rename it, and click outside of this node. Just go ahead and rearrange my nodes a little bit, something like that. The next node, now we're going to merge everything coming out of our first route with everything we just created in this edit fields node. So I'll click the plus, create the next node. This will be merge. And for the mode, let's drop that down, choose combine. For the fields to match, we want to match the video ID. So let's find that video ID right here. Now, before we test the step, we have to go link up the other route into this node. So I'm going to click outside the node and switch around this input. I'll delete this route and grab this toggle handle, drag it into input number 2. Now come down to the end of the first route and grab this handle and link it up to input number 1. Cool, just rearrange my nodes again, just like that. Let's go back into this merge node. Just double check everything here and we can test the step. All we've done is merge the data from both our routes. So now we have all of our statistics here with the views per hour, the likes, and everything else we just set. Great. Click outside of this node. So I'm going to click the plus to create the next node. This is going to be the edit fields node. We can type in set, choose edit fields. This is where we need to convert some of the data so we can drop it into Airtable. So right away, I'll just rename this node convert for Airtable, click rename. For the mode, drop this down. Let's choose JSON, and we're going to delete out this default JSON structure. We'll hover over the JSON field, click expression to change this to an expression field, and we can expand this expression field. Delete out this default JSON, and you can paste what I have here. In between these quotes, we're going to drag in the thumbnail schema, drop that down in between the quotes, and just after this equal sign in this URL right here, we're going to drag in the video ID. Drop that down after the equal sign and before the quotes. Cool. So let's click outside of this expression field, click test step. Now that these two fields are set up for Airtable, I'll click outside of this node, rearrange my nodes a little bit, click the plus to add the next node. This will be Airtable. Find the Airtable node. We want to search records. Now you're going to use your same Airtable access token, find your base, choose your table. Now this table we're going to search is the video list. Choose that. And for the filter, we'll add in a formula here. We only want to search our Airtable base to find duplicate videos and update them. So we're going to search for our video IDs coming through. You can copy and paste this formula I have here. I'll change this to an expression field. Click on expression. I'll expand this expression field and you can copy and paste this expression right here. This is the Airtable formula that will filter out and search if the video ID coming in is the same as a video ID we already have in Airtable. So it's searching for duplicate videos. I'll click outside of the expression node. We want to return all to check all of our videos in Airtable. Under options, click add option, choose output fields, and we can select an output field. We only want to know the video ID. Choose video ID and test step. Now we can see in my database, I have no videos equal to this new video coming through. So just to complete this route, we need to go and fake that data. So I'm going to grab this video ID right here, copy my video ID, jump into Airtable, come into the video list, click the plus to create a new record right here under account name. Now we have some hidden fields, so we're going to add a new view here. I'll click the plus to create a new grid view, name this all data. And in the all data view, we can find the video ID field. I'll click into here and paste my video ID. Let's jump back into n8n. Now we can test this step again and fake that video ID coming through. So there's that video ID. Let's click outside of this node, click the plus to create the next node. This will be Airtable. We want to delete a record. So essentially this route is going to be updating your old records with new data coming in. So it'll update the videos you already have in Airtable with new view information, new like information, and new views per hour information. So you have an up-to-date Airtable base. So let's choose the same base, choose the same table, video list, and that record ID we can grab from the Airtable node right here. Drag that in and test step. Deleted equals true. That means if we go into Airtable, we can see we no longer have that fake data. That video ID has been deleted. So any updated videos will delete out the old ones and refresh with the new information. Jump back into n8n, click outside of this node. Now we need to add a second route coming from this node to actually put in our videos into this table. Let's search for Airtable node. This will be create a record. Let's choose the base, choose the table, video list, and now we can map each of these columns. So this is what I was talking about before, just something to keep in mind that I don't actually do in my builds, which would make your builds a little bit easier than my workflows, is actually mapping automatically. So to map your fields in Airtable automatically, you would name your schema coming through exactly what you name your fields. I tend to do things manually just so I can make sure I know exactly what's coming through, and naming things this way while I was building this was helpful for the code nodes and just keeping things in order coming from Rapid API and all of that stuff. And I like to have my field names in Airtable named nicely and neat, not named with some of this coding language. That's why we're manually mapping this stuff. Something to keep in mind if you want to auto map your fields in Airtable in the future. So let's go ahead and just start dragging this stuff over. We need the account name. That is the channel title. For the thumbnail, we did that conversion up here. So we want the thumbnail URL. However, Airtable attachment fields require an array. So let's grab the images array, drop that right there. For video title, we can grab the title. VPH, we can get the views per hour. For URL, we did that conversion up here as well. We can grab the links URL. Don't have to take the array for this one. We can just grab the URL. This is our checkbox in Airtable. Just to keep your videos organized in Airtable, we can trash this field here in n8n. Let's bring over the published time. This is published at. We can drag that over. Views, can grab the views. Likes, let's drag the likes. Description, drag over description. Channel ID, let's grab the channel ID, and video ID, video ID. Cool. Let's test the step, and boom, like that, we got everything in Airtable. Let's jump back into Airtable and watch this one come through. There it is. Account name, Kirk Artman. There's my thumbnail. Well, sometimes I like to look at these records a little more blown up, so you can click this button, choose medium or tall to see your thumbnails. I'll choose medium. Channel ID, video title. Let's actually jump back over to the new videos view here. This will keep everything organized in a more workable view. Same thing, I'll blow up my record size to medium. We got the video title, views per hour, the URL link to that video. I can mark if I've watched this video or not right here. Got the published time, number of views, number of likes, description of the video, and the created time of this record. I'll go ahead and just hide this created time as well. You can come up to the hidden fields button or right click on the field itself and choose hide field. Great, so that works excellent. We can now run this entire automation just like that by adding new YouTube accounts coming into n8n. I'll just click outside of this node just to keep things organized and finish off this workflow nice and neat. I'll rearrange my nodes, rename this Airtable node, get video list, rename it, rename this second one, update, rename it, and this last one, add new videos. Let's save the workflow and toggle it on. There we go. Now my workflow is ready to run. Every day at midnight, I'll get new updated videos based on the YouTube usernames I drop into this list right here and check get videos. And there we go. That is my tool that I personally use to get the latest high performing videos from other content creators in the AI automation space so that I can stay relevant and keep everything up to date. You can of course tailor this workflow to suit your own needs and implement it in other workflows and other scenarios or AI agents in n8n. If you want to learn how to do that stuff, you can jump into the school community. I've got the link in the description of this video. Once you join the community, you'll have access to all of my workflows and automation templates for free. So head over there, check that stuff out. I look forward to seeing you in the group, and I'll see you in the next video.